What's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we got a brand new video on Bitcoin and what's really going on with it, because it's been a little bit volatile here. A lot of reasons outside of only Bitcoin itself. The fundamentals I'm going to take a look at, as well as the price action and a new line that we got on the chart, which looks like this right here. So if we zoomed in on these lines, you could see it looks maybe like it's falling, but you zoom out and all of a sudden it's not that bad. So we have this basically ascending multi-month channel here where we see it come down. It bounces off here all the way to the top, back to the bottom, back to the top, back to the bottom. So we'll see if it keeps up and just goes back to the top. That would be great. There are a lot of things macro happening that isn't great for Bitcoin or any stocks. I mean, look at this left side here. It's just massive mountains of red because everything is getting beaten down from the macro things with inflation, interest rates, the Federal Reserve, everything that's kind of going on, forcing people to look at what's going on outside of the asset itself and kind of worry about what's going on in the entirety of the world. So we have these policies. We know Jerome Powell, he said something that made the market not so happy, but right now for the price, we honestly looking like we're heading towards the bottom line of this first, which is today it would be around 38,750. So around just under 39,000. Bitcoin at 39k 300. So getting close to this line. We'll see if we get this reversal and bounce up to try and go back to the top here, or at least try and get back into this middle of the channel here. But like everything that's going on, there is not a lot that is Bitcoin's doing. It is a lot more Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve, all these kinds of guys. And the big thing that happened with them is this headline right here with Powell saying taming inflation is absolutely essential and a 50 basis point hike is possible for May, which is next month. Obviously the coming 1 week or a couple weeks from now will be in May. We'll be at the Federal Reserve meeting and we'll see if they do a 50 basis point hike. With the way that Jerome Powell is talking here, lot to say that we're probably getting this 50 basis point hike, or 0.5%, which is double what we were expecting, and to be staying at these quarter rate hikes, which 0.25 rate hikes every meeting or whatever, to get to whatever the number was, like 2 or 3% for the federal funds rate. But now we're looking at a number that is double what was expecting. So the market has to go from expecting 0.25 and pricing in a chance of 0.5 to now we are expecting 0.5 and have to price in the chance of a 0.75 point increase, which obviously would be way more massive than a 0.25%. So that changes how the market has to price things in, as we're seeing with stocks going down, Bitcoin and crypto going down, just a lot of these financial assets plummeting, except for bonds. Those are skyrocketing, and people are selling them like no tomorrow right now. So a lot of things going on in a lot of financial markets. And some of the things, just the key points here, we'll look at with Jerome Powell on Thursday, said the central bank is committed to raising rates expeditiously to bring down inflation. I mean, we've heard this time and time again, but not from Jerome Powell maybe. So market got to get ready for these bigger rate hikes. And then that could mean an interest rate hike of 50 basis points in May as prices rise at their fastest pace in more than 40 years. We're actually at an inflection point with inflation right now where we could see the CPI number going down, because year over year, it's now going to compete with higher readings that we had last year as compared to what we were reading, like lower numbers before. So we might see the number go down, and maybe tunes change then, but it's still going to be pretty bad for real world kind of compounding inflation. So this is something out of Bitcoin's control. The biggest thing on the macro level that is affecting everything, but definitely out of Bitcoin's control, but things that are in Bitcoin's control, like its hash rate and just showing the network growth here, it still looks pretty good. Basically fundamentals of Bitcoin. We can see obviously the bottom point here, July 2021, getting close to a year over that, and just the explosive growth up and to the right over and over again. So we're seeing it slow down maybe a little bit around here, kind of going a little sideways. But if you look at raw values, the recent jump we had is almost all-time highs again, 237 compared to 248. So pretty close there, but a massive jump, massive people joining the network, mining Bitcoin, adding security, doing all that good stuff. The week averages. So this is going to lag obviously from the raw one. So we should see a pretty decent move up here. 30-day average just looks a lot smoother, pretty much going up here. You can see it kind of rounding off, getting a little flat, which is fine. It had a massive explosive growth, but it's still growing. It's not like it's completely going flat here. We are still having times of moving up in hash rate, people joining the network, everything kind of moving in the right direction. Fundamentally, still very good for Bitcoin. And we have this massive news with Morgan Stanley declaring that the Bitcoin Lightning Network is superior to Visa and MasterCard. That is massive news. A bank coming out saying Lightning Network is way more efficient and way better, far superior than the entire Visa or MasterCard networks. They don't even compete. That is a massive thing for a bank to say. Obviously, they'd have interest in Visa and MasterCard and kind of working with them. But Lightning, it seems like it is coming up. It's been on the up. Jack Mallers was out on Bitcoin 2022 talking about how he partnered with a company to make the point of sale systems be able to accept Bitcoin and Lightning, and you can pay with Lightning. So things are really moving forward in adoption pretty quickly, and to see things like Morgan Stanley talking about it is pretty big news. You know, we don't want to stare at banks, but they can be important when kind of spreading this information. They could be attacking Bitcoin Lightning, but they're admitting that it is superior. And just some more things out here with the IMF, things out of Bitcoin's control and out of any asset's control is the IMF, and they are going absolutely crazy. They had a video come out and they're talking about their decisions, how they were wrong and didn't think the consequences through. You can see right here, we didn't think through the consequences of printing too much money. That is a ridiculous sentence to come out of anyone's mouth who is supposed to be an economist, who's supposed to know all this stuff, whose job it is supposed to be to control inflation, control the money supply, and just have the best interest for money and inflation and people and all this stuff, to say, we didn't think printing $12 trillion was going to be a problem. That is massively insane to try and say that when it's your only job to not have that happen. And then saying we're already out of time. So that's good. At least you're instilling confidence. Very good. There's a video too of them talking about it. This says, this basically, the biggest points out here is them saying we printed too much money, didn't think of the unintended consequences. Again, and they literally said this lady, or the IMF director, literally said we were acting like 8-year-olds playing soccer, chasing the ball. These are grown adults whose only job is to make sure you don't flood the system and cause crippling inflation. That is their only job. Make sure inflation doesn't get terrible. And they completely ignored it. They have record high inflation numbers. They have inflation increasing at the highest rates in decades. They printed the most amount of money ever and didn't think that inflation would be a thing. They apparently didn't pass economics 101 with supply and demand. So it's funny to see them all kind of sitting here saying, we didn't think the consequences do this. Oh my God. And this is the biggest reason why we need Bitcoin. We need this system that doesn't have people involved with people's interests. When they make decisions, it doesn't really affect them. They're filthy rich, so they don't need to worry about 8% inflation, whereas the average person needs to worry about that 8% inflation. That's not something they can just kind of shrug off and say, well, my grocery bill doubled, but I can handle it, because these guys, their disposable income and everything doesn't get affected. They're rich. Anyone who's rich likes inflation because it pushes their asset prices through the roof. But anyone who doesn't have assets or is just going paycheck to paycheck, they're in desperate need of the inflation to not be bad. So that's why you need a system like Bitcoin. No one's in charge. Everyone knows it's going to happen. It is not going to change the issuance of Bitcoin. You can't make more. You can't just print them out of thin air. You can't control it. That's all problems that are with the IMF here, with a certain select amount of people, and central banks too. Select amount of people that you don't even vote for are in control of this, where they can control inflation if it gets really bad, and then if it gets bad, they have to make things worse in the short term and cause recessions. So it's just a crazy system. So ultimately, a lot of things outside of Bitcoin's control on why it's moving down. Nothing, ridiculous. It's still hovering around the 40K mark, around 39, so we're in that ballpark. We're still in the ascending channel, still going, making higher lows and higher highs. So we're doing things right. Things are going all right for Bitcoin. The macro, tough scenes for everything. Inflation, interest rates, Federal Reserve, all these problems are going to be problems for probably a long time here. So we're gonna have to be dealing with this news and everything and seeing how everything reacts. But ultimately, it's gonna be short-term pain for what ultimately won't really matter longer term. That's gonna do it for this video, guys. As always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you guys in my next video.